Assalamu alaikum. Mimallah yerimizni alaylı. Programımız kechikib ketdi. Esselamu Aleyküm hanımlar efendiler. Hazır Sherqiy Türkistan ve Germaniya milli marşlarından Milliy Kéngishimiz ve Yashlar Kengishini başlayımız. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Now we will start with national anthem of East Turkestan and Germany. Please stand up. Suday kalktı bizden kanımız, sen için ey yurtımız, olsun feda bu canımız. Kan küçük hem can büyük, ağır kurtulduğunda seni, kurtuluşta kalbimizde ağrını. İmanımız atılanın cenleri tarih bitirdi Meslihanı cenge var yazalım evladımız çıktı can hem aktı kan yandın el aman yaşasın hiç ölmesin güzel istikbalimiz yaşasın yaşasın parlansın istikbalimiz. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, welcome to Swiss Uyghur National Summit and the Uyghur Yas Summit. My name is Dolkun Isa, Chair of the Summit Organizing Committee and the former President of the World Uyghur Congress. The World Uyghur Congress Executive Committee made a decision to convene this important gathering and entrust me with leading the preparations. Thanks to the tireless effort of all colleagues and the host organization on the organizing committee who work day and night, we have successfully brought this summit to life in just 3 short times, 3 months' time. Our first National Uyghur Summit took place in November 2018, and second summit took place in May 2022 in Munich. This summit takes place at a crucial moment. The global political landscape is shifting rapidly. As a nation enduring ongoing oppression and the Chinese occupation, we find ourselves at a critical point in time. Since the beginning of this year, a new world order has begun to emerge, marked by profound political and strategic changes. In this evolving context, the Uyghur struggle for the democracy and the freedom face mounting challenges. Development such a political shift in the United States, Canada, and the formation of new government in the key European countries like Germany and the French are reshaping international dynamics. Between 2024 and 2025, more than 70 countries held national elections. Amidst this change, World Uyghur Congress also held 8th General Assembly in October 2024, where we elected new leadership to carry our movement forward. Yet, despite this development, the Uyghur genocide continues in our homeland. In this genocide remains the most urgent priority of our cause. But our struggle goes beyond human rights alone. The Uyghurs' cause is national movement that sits at the intersection of global politics, security, and strategic interest. It is not only fight for the freedom of our people, but also a cause contribute to global stability, beginning in Central Asia and extending beyond. In this increasingly complex and dynamic environment, our primary objective is to re-evaluate our strategy, strengthen our position, and advance effective global advocacy for the Uyghur cause. This summit is an opportunity to collectively reflect, strategize, and chart a clear path forward. We are proudly to host over 150 participants, including more than 50 Uyghur organizations around the world, community leaders, human rights activists, youth activists, scholars, politicians from over the 20 countries. This summit, organized under leadership and the cooperation of 21 Uyghur organizations, actively engaged around the world. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to all host organizations that have made event possible through the support and the partnership, including Alberta Uyghur Association in Canada, Australian Uyghur Association, Campaign for Uyghur in United States, East Turkestan Association of Canada, East Turkestan Research Foundation in Turkey, International Uyghur Academy in United States, Norwegian Uyghur Committee, Uyghur Center for Democracy Human Rights in Germany, Uyghur Human Rights Project in United States, Uyghur Association in Victoria, Australia, World Uyghur Congress, World Uyghur Congress Foundation in Turkey, Uyghur Organization in Central Asia, and the Meshrab community in Germany. And also, thanks following partner support organization, Belgium Uyghur Association, Irish Uyghur Cultural Association, Japan Uyghur Association, Swedish Uyghur Union, Uyghur Association in Switzerland. So I thanks to all host and the partner organization once again. Now, on behalf of the host organization, I would like to invite Turgunjan Alaudon, President of the World Uyghur Congress, to deliver opening remarks. Please.
Assalamu alaikum, hürmetlik yığın qatnaşqıçıları, qimmatlik mehmonlar, qadrlik do'stlar. Men Dünya Uyghur Qurultayı hamda barliq sahibxon tashkilotlarga vakolatan vatan millatining istiqboli uchun o'rtaq bosh qotirish maqsadida bu so'ringa jam bo'lgan barliq tashkilotlarimiz, kelgusimizning kafolati bo'lgan yoshlarimiz, bizni qo'llayotgan do'stlarimiz va aziz vakillarimizni chin qalbimdan qarshi olaman. Germaniya Tashqi ishlar ministrligi, Kanada parlamenti, Turkiya parlamenti, Bavariya parlamenti, Amerika Bosh konsulxonasi, Birleşken Devletler Teşkilatı'dan kelib, yig'inimizga sharaf bag'ishlagan qimmatlik do'stlarimizga alohida rahmat aytaman. Bugün biz ötküzüvatkan 3. nöwetlik Sherqiy Türkistan Milliy Kéngishi ve Uyghur Yashlar Kengişi milletimizden ortak iradesini dünyaga yeni bir qatim jakalash ve mustaqillik kurishimizden yeni stratejisini tüzüp çıkışımız için bizge nasip bolgan qimmatlik bir fursatdir. Bugün biz Sherqiy Türkistan halkı tarixdeki en ağır irqiy qirg'inchilikka duch kelgan davrda turibmiz. Xitoy hukumati Sherqiy Türkistan xalqini sistemalik bostirish, majburiy assimilyatsiya qilish, xohlagancha qo'lga ilish, jazo lagerlariga solashdek irqiy qirg'inchilik jinoyatlari bilan dunyoga to'nilmoqda. Uyg'urlardan sirt Sherqiy Türkistan'da yaşayotgan Qozoq, Qirg'iz ve başka qarindosh millatlarmi bu irqiy qirg'inchilikning qurboniga aylanmoqda. Bu xil ahval aslida biz Sherqiy Türkistan'ның haqdar egileri hem de muhaciratdagi milliy davomizning vakillari bo'lish sifatimiz bilan tarixiy mas'uliyatimizni ado qilish, bu kurashni adoqqicha davomlashtirish uchun texmo kuchlik hamkorlik, texmo qat'iy ittifoqlik va texmo yiroqni ko'rarlik strategiyaga muhtoj bo'lmoqdamiz. Hurmatli yig'in qatnashchilari, biz Sherqiy Türkistan xalqi tartıyotgan zulümga emas, belki ularning tarihi, madaniyati, arzu istakları ve zulümga qarshi irodasiga vakillik qilamiz. Bu mas'uliyat bizga arz qilish huquqini emas, balki yana hal qilish choralarini izlash, kuchlik diplomatiya va lobby faoliyatlarini qanot yaydirish, o'rtaq kelgusimizni planlash, xalqimizning ovozini dunyo miqyosida texmo jaranglik anglatish, xalqimizning insoniy haq huquqi uchun davomli kurash qilish vazifasini yuklaydi. Bunun için biz o'xshamagan davlatlardagi do'stlarimiz bilan davoyimizga hayoti kuch bag'ishlagan yoshlarimiz bilan bu davoni texmo yuqori saviyaga yetkazishning chora tadbirlarini o'rtaq muzokara qilish g'oyasi ostida bir so'ringa jam bo'lib o'tiribmiz. Men bu Milliy Kengashni uyushtirishga hassa qo'shgan barliq tashkilot va shaxslarga, Milliy Kengashga qatnashgan aziz vakillarga hamda yuksak irodasi, bilimi, tasavvuri bilan Sherqiy Türkistan xalqining texmo yangroq ovozi bo'lg'isi yoshlarimizga rahmat aytaman. Shuningga ishonamizki, zulm va haqsizlik fanidir. Adalet ve hakikat baqidir. Adalet çokum g'alaba qiladi. Sherqiy Türkistan xalqi hamon bir kuni erkinlikka ve mustaqillikka erishadi. Rahmat. Ben endi bu Milliy Kengash bilan Yashlar Kengişi birlikte o'tkazyapti. Şu Yashlar Kengishini uyushtirgan Dünya Uyghur Qurultayı'nın Yashlar Komiteti müdürü ve Şveysariya Uyghur Cemiyeti'nin reisi ve hazırki davayımızın da yetilayotgan yaş avlodlarimizdan Rizvana İlham xonimni taklif qilaman. Rahmat.
Distinguished guests, advocates, and above all, Uyghur youth. Welcome to a gathering where our heritage becomes our power, our voices become our call, and our unity becomes our future. Good morning, I'm Rizvana İlham, Director of the Youth Committee and the President of the Swiss Uyghur Association, and I'm honored to guide you through the next 3 days. I'm a bit nervous. On day 1, we ignite our purpose with advocacy and wisdom, learning from the pioneers among us, seasoned advocates, community leaders, and scholars, whose hard-won lessons in diplomacy, storytelling, and grassroots organizing will light our path. Day 2 is dedicated to workshops and well-being, where you'll master strategic advocacy tools, digital campaigning, legal literacy, human rights frameworks, and pause together to heal, because our movement's strength begins with the health of its people. Finally, day 3, we celebrate culture as catalyst, exploring how music, dance, visual art, poetry becomes instruments of resilience, reclamation, and closing with a mashrab, a showcase of your talents that reminds of the world our spirit will not be silenced. Why this summit? Why now? Because to be Uyghur is not merely to inherit a name, but to carry a torch. To fight without understanding is to march blind. To live without pride is to breathe without purpose. Here we reclaim our story, rooted in the past of poets and scholars, merchants and innovators, and we cast it forward, forging a future that bears our unmistakable mark. Look around you. In these seats lie future diplomats, entrepreneurs, artists, and scholars. In these faces blaze the same determination that built cities along the Silk Road and filled libraries with poetry. Let us rekindle that flame. Let us lean into every session, every workshop, every performance. Let us listen with open minds and speak with fearless hearts. Let us learn from our elders and teach our peers. Let us transform ideas into action and action into lasting change. Because we are the Uyghur youth. We are the guardians of our heritage and architects of our destiny. Because together we are stronger than any barrier, louder than any silence, brighter than any shadow. Welcome to the summit. Let the heart of Uyghur spirit ignite within you. And let the fire light the world. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Rushan Abbas. I am the chairwoman of the Executive Committee of the World Uyghur Congress. I am also the Executive Director of Campaign for Uyghurs, which we are honored to co-host the East Turkestan and the Uyghur National Summit today. Here we are going to listen to Congresswoman Young Kim, who has been a champion of defending Uyghur human rights in the United States. She co-sponsored the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act and they notably introduced the Uyghur Policy Act. She is widely respected for her bipartisan approach and the deep moral clarity. Representative Kim continued to lead with courage on the global stage. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Young Kim. Hi, I'm Congresswoman Young Kim, representative of California's 40th Congressional District. I'm honored to join you all virtually at the 3rd Annual East Turkestan Uyghur Summit hosted by the World Uyghur Congress, as you all discuss global threats, refugee protection, and opportunities to strengthen solidarity and resilience. In Congress, I am proud to serve as chairwoman of the House Foreign Affairs East Asia and the Pacific Subcommittee, and also as a member of the Select Committee on the Strategic Competition between the United States and Chinese Communist Party. As you know, the Chinese Communist Party has carried out a systematic genocide in Xinjiang. I've heard heart-wrenching and horrible personal testimonies from the survivors from the camps, which have held up to 1.8 million people since 2017. We have heard verified accounts of systematic rape, forced sterilization, inhumane conditions in detention camps, brainwashing techniques, and torture. That is why I introduced the Uyghur Policy Act, which would create a multilateral diplomatic strategy to counter the CCP's genocide in Xinjiang by appointing a special coordinator for Uyghur issues and preparing our foreign service officers to meet the challenges in the region. We must wake up and recognize that the CCP is fully committed to leveraging oppression, torture, and genocide to further its geopolitical and economic ambitions. While the CCP spouts propaganda, each of us must stand in strong support of those who are trapped under authoritarian control through congressional action, corporate responsibility, and morality. I will continue to stand in fierce opposition to the CCP's human rights violations and ensure that the atrocity committed result in steep financial and political costs for the Xi regime. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Representative Suhas Subrayaman, and he represents Virginia District, which is a home for thousands of Uyghurs in the United States. And Congressman Suhas has been a great advocate and a fighter and a friend for Uyghur human rights. Thank you.
Hi, Congressman Suhas Subramaniam here. I represent Virginia. I'm so sorry I can't be in Germany for the World Uyghur Congress, but I really wish you all a very successful and a productive Congress. I will say that it's been so great getting to know the Uyghur community in Virginia and really around the country since I got elected. And I was very proud to introduce legislation to protect Uyghurs around the world, the Uyghur Human Rights Act. And I'm looking forward to working in a bipartisan way with Democrats and Republicans to protect Uyghurs around the world. And we have to make sure that we are standing up for human rights of Uyghurs and of everyone, and that we make sure that we continue to champion the cause and spread awareness of what's going on. And so thank you so much for your advocacy, for speaking up, and I will continue to be your champion in Congress. Thank you.
It's my great pleasure and honor to invite a true friend of the Uyghurs, Mr. Marcus Rinda-Spachar, to deliver the opening remarks. Mr. Rinda-Spachar, we deeply appreciate your unwavering commitment to human rights and your courageous voice in support of oppressed communities. As a Vice President of the Bavarian State Parliament and a long-standing advocate for justice, your presence here today gives strength and significance for the summit. We would be truly honored if you could join us and deliver a few remarks. Thank you.
Mr. President, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, dear friends of the Uyghur community, I warmly welcome you to the 3rd Uyghur Summit here in Munich, a city that has become a place of hope, exile, and identity for many Uyghur men and women. Munich is not just an international metropolis. For many, it has become the unofficial capital of the Uyghur diaspora in Europe. We in Munich are very proud of that. The Uyghurs belong to our city Munich as much as Bayern Munich and Thomas Müller, as much as BMW and Siemens, as much as the Marienplatz, as much as the Oktoberfest. The Uyghurs are a firm and proud part of our city. Here the hearts of your community beat strongly, a community that despite persecution, displacement and disenfranchisement has not fallen silent. Your voices are heard and we are listening. At the same time, we must not ignore that Munich once bore the title of the capital of the Nazi movement about 90 years ago, the birthplace of a regime that brought terror and war to the world. And from this dark chapter of German history arises a special responsibility for us to uphold human dignity, to defend human rights everywhere. We must not and we will not remain silent in the face of what is happening today in the Xinjiang region, what the Uyghur people are enduring in China. Millions have been imprisoned in so-called re-education camps. There were well-documented cases of forced labor, religious oppression, forced sterilizations, and cultural erasure. The Uyghur language, culture, and religion are systematically suppressed. Families are torn apart, mosques destroyed, entire ways of life eradicated. This policy is not just an attack on an ethnic or religious minority, it is an attack on our shared humanity. Dear friends, what we are witnessing is not merely a regional injustice, it is embedded in a global shift in geopolitics in which authoritarian regimes gain strength and economic interests too often outweigh human rights. That is why courageous, clear voices like those of the Uyghur diaspora are needed more than ever. The World Uyghur Congress and its partners are sending a powerful message. Freedom, identity, and cultural survival are universal values. They are non-negotiable. They deserve global solidarity, including here in Bavaria. The Uyghur movement is facing deep and difficult questions. How does one preserve identity in exile? How can community be created across continents? And how does one make their voice heard in a world that too often looks away? These answers can be found in your work, in your resilience, in your collective voice. Today, we also want to celebrate your culture, of course. Uyghur music, rich in depth and longing, your language, full of history and meaning, your poetry, rooted in a millennia-old cultural heritage between China, Persia, and the Islamic world, your cuisine, your dances, your stories, all of them tell the tale of a vibrant people with a right to a future. The Uyghur diaspora is alive and rising. It has not been silenced. It is growing in strength, in confidence, in determination. And Munich and Bavaria stand with you. We affirm our commitment to the freedom of the Uyghur people, to the dignity of all peoples, and to the universality of human rights. Because when a people must fight for its very existence, it is not a distant problem, it is a shared responsibility. I thank you for your work, your courage and your voice. May this summit in Munich be a place of encounter, solidarity and hope, and may a message go out from Munich to the world. We do not look away, we stand together. Thank you very much.
Vielen Dank. Esteemed guests, dear colleagues and friends, as one of the co-sponsors of this very important event, it is my immense pleasure to welcome you all to our center. My name is Zümrüt Erkin and I'm the Vice President of the World Uyghur Congress. Our next guest is Mr. Yves-François Blanchet. He is a member of the House of Commons of Canada and the party leader of the Bloc Québécois, a party that is very dear to us at the World Uyghur Congress, as it also represents the collective interest of a people to determine their own political future. In January 2019, Mr. Blanchet became the party leader of the Bloc Québécois. Under his leadership, the party experienced a significant resurgence in the 2019 federal election, growing from 10 to 32 seats, reclaiming status as the third largest party in the House of Commons of Canada. He was re-elected in both the 2021 and 2025 elections in Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Blanchet, together with his colleagues, namely Mr. Alexis Brunel-Duceppe, have been very strong advocates of the Uyghurs within the Canadian Parliament. As a Uyghur, but also as a Québécoise, it is my immense pleasure to welcome Mr. Yves-François Blanchet to the stage. En tant que Ouïghour et en tant que Québécoise, ça me fait un immense plaisir de vous accueillir dans notre centre, Monsieur le député Yves-François Blanchet.
Bonjour. I will do something I do not do often, and I mean speak English. As proud as you are of the Uyghur language, I am of the special version of French language, which is Québécois French language. Je vais quand même dire quelques mots en français parce qu'il est contraire à mes habitudes dans toute espèce de fonction officielle de m'adresser non seulement pas dans la langue de ma nation qui est le français, mais parce que c'est la langue commune, c'est malgré tout la langue du conquérant de mon peuple il y a quelques centaines d'années. Still, this is the common language for many parts of the world, and this is the one you use here. And since in the Canadian Parliament and with the Canadian media, I do not have much of a choice. I have learned to master not so well, but sufficiently English, and I will speak to you in English. There are fights to be fought. There are victories to be won. There are decades which seems to be endless, and lights which we don't seem to reach. And still, people like you keep fighting the good fight, fighting to survive as a people, fighting to be a strong voice for the diversity which must be respected and promoted throughout the world. A culture that has to thrive, and a culture that has to be protected by everybody with dignity and heart. Those people have to fight alongside you. We have to do the right thing, and it's a bit easier for us to do because, you know, Chinese diplomacy is very aggressive and intimidating. And whomever who wants to hold power, form a government in a country, has to be careful about the consequences that might come with facing with courage such a superpower as China. For the Bloc Québécois, it might be a bit easier because we are the voice only of the Quebec people in Canadian Parliament. And we do not want or expect in any way to form a government at any time. It makes us better placed to convey the voice of the people whom are, like the last book of the Dalai Lama suggests, voiceless. But the Uyghur people is not voiceless. It has you people. It has many voices throughout the world who makes it being heard by all the powers of the planet. Many foes work against freedom for other people. One of the worst is China. China is working against the self-determination of Taiwan, working against the self-determination of Tibet, has seized the control of Hong Kong, and is promoting an actual and real and vicious genocide against Uyghur people. Our freedom as a people in Quebec, and as many other people, comes with a responsibility. The responsibility to carry this voice and be beside you in this fight. And the Bloc Québécois has done that mainly under the voice of Alexis, who is here today and has done an extraordinary job about that. And we are very proud of his work. So, I believe that the world can do better, that the world must do better with strength and courage. And I want to ask you something, please, my friends. Show us the way. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Distinguished guests, friends of my nation, dear brothers and sisters, my name is Erkin Zunun, Vice Chairman of the Executive Committee of the World Uyghur Congress. It is now my privilege to introduce our next guest, Mr. Jiří Oberfalzer, Vice President of the Czech Senate. Mr. Oberfalzer is a respected Czech politician and a long-standing advocate for democracy, civil liberties, and the rule of law. Most notably, he played a key role in the Czech Senate's recognition of Uyghur genocide and has been a tireless supporter of the Uyghur cause. Unfortunately, Mr. Oberfalzer could not be with us in person today, but he has shared a written statement which I now have the honor to read. Dear friends, allow me to use this opportunity to greet you on the occasion of your National Uyghur Summit and wish that your efforts will contribute to the ultimate liberation of the Uyghurs in China from totalitarian oppression and genocide. The support for Russian aggression against Ukraine shows that China supports the right of stronger. It does not care about the human lives or about any interest other than its own economy and power. In its view, the stronger always has a right to take what it desires, just as Russia desires Ukraine. Totalitarian regimes do not respect diversity or the richness of other cultures. They want to make all human beings of one makeup, one faith, the communist, and the one nationality, the Chinese. All this so that they can control them better and make them human machines to build their own wealth. The smaller, the weaker, have no right to a free life, opinion, or their own religion. This is a policy of Greater China. We must condemn this and stand up for the weaker and the right to live in dignity as they wish. Whoever takes away another identity, language, beliefs, and culture is committing the worst crime against humanity. Thank you. And now I'm honored to introduce another extraordinary defender of freedom and human dignity, Ms. Alexandra Matvichuk. Ms. Matvichuk is a leading Ukrainian human rights lawyer and the head of the Center for Civil Liberties. Her exceptional work has earned her international recognition. Under her leadership, the Center of Civil Liberties was awarded the 2022 Nobel Peace Prize. Although Ms. Matvichuk is unable to be here with us in person, she has kindly shared a video message. Let us now listen to her remarks.
My name is Alexandra Matvichuk. I'm a human rights lawyer and I'm documenting war crimes in this war which Russia has launched against Ukraine. While this war turns people into the numbers, we are returning people their names, because people are not numbers and life of each person matters. We are fighting for freedom which have no limitation in national borders, as well as human solidarity. And that is why I would like to use this opportunity to express my sincere solidarity with Uyghur people who suffered from unbelievable cruelty and massive repression from Chinese government. I know from my own experience that when you can't rely on the legal instruments, when you can't rely on the international system of peace and security, you can still rely on people. We get used to thinking through the categories of states and interstate organizations, but ordinary people have a much great impact that they can even imagine. Ordinary people can change history. And I'm here to say that despite everything, these dramatic times raise hope, because when freedom is denied, it becomes powerfully to break out through the every concrete individuals. Because hope, it's not a confidence that everything will be fine, but hope, it's a deep understanding that all our efforts have a huge meaning.
Thank you so much for your patience as we conclude the opening ceremony. Now we're going to jump straight to the program, which is the first fireside chat. So I would like to welcome our two special guests, Mr. Doğan Bekin, a member of the Turkish Parliament, to the stage, and Mr. Andrei Sanikov also to the stage. Welcome. So before we start this, we also have a few special messages. We had a lot of support from our guests. So the first is a little message of solidarity from one of our allies within the European Parliament. So MEP Pina Picerno, who is the Vice President of the European Parliament. She could not be here today, but she sent us a reminder of the solidarity she shows towards the Uyghur issue. Dear friends and brave representatives of the Uyghur community, I am deeply grateful to the World Uyghur Congress for the opportunity to share my message. Your tireless efforts and courage amid adversity are a beacon in our common struggle for human rights and justice. As Vice President of the European Parliament, let me reaffirm, we stand unwaveringly with the Uyghur people. We strongly condemn the atrocities committed by the Chinese Communist Party and against the Uyghur people in the Uyghur region. But oppression does not stop at China's borders. Over the last years, we have witnessed an alarming rise in transnational reprisals targeting Uyghur dissidents, activists, and their families on European soil, including intimidation, surveillance, and threats, striking not only individuals, but also democratic values we hold dear. We won't let you behind. To all of you who continue to raise your voices despite the risks, I see you, we hear you. The European Parliament stands beside you. We will not rest until your dignity, identity, culture, and rights are respected and protected. We would like to now also see a video from another friend of ours in the German Bundestag, in the German Parliament, Mr. Norbert Altenkamp, who is a German politician of the Christian Democratic Union, CDU, who has been serving as a member of the Bundestag since 2017. He previously served as a mayor of Bad Soden He's the newly elected chairperson of the ruling party CDU, responsible for human rights at the Bundestag. He's also one of the co-founding members of the Uyghur Friendship Group at the German Bundestag.
Dear President Al-Afdoun, dear guests, following a longer break, dear President Al-Afdoun, dear guests, following a longer break, the German Bundestag has resumed his work this week. Due to this and the many committee meetings it has caused, unfortunately, I'm not able to be here in a person today. Nevertheless, I want to use this short video message to introduce myself as the new chairman and spokesman of the Working Group on Human Rights and Humanitarian Aid of the CDU-CSU Parliamentarian Group. I am succeeding Michael Brandt, who previously held this position and has now moved to the Ministry of Education as a Parliamentarian States Secretary. At the latest, after the worldwide publication of internal documents, has it now become impossible for Beijing to deny the extent to which the oppressed the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. And not only the Uyghurs, the Tibetans, the people of Hong Kong, and also suffering from Chinese repressive politics aimed at the complete Sinization of other ethnic and religious communities. Besides, we know that China, like many other authoritarian states, persecutes people to flee to us in order to intimidate, harass, bully, and at worst, silence them. We have already addressed the issue of transnational repression in the last legislative period, then acting as part of the opposition. Now, back in the government coalition, we will continue to address this issue in this new legislative period. We will look at how we can better protect human rights defenders and journalists living here from the influence of the governments of their home countries. These missions are also outlined in our coalition agreement. The fate and the silent suffering of the Uyghurs have repeatedly been of the concern of the Committee on Human Rights and Humanitarian Aid. And I'm certain that the fate of the Uyghurs will remain at the top of our priority list. I wish you all a successful event and look forward to more personal dialogue with you.
So thank you, Mr. Altenkam. So welcome to our fireside chat. Mr. Doğan Bekin, you are a member of the Turkish Parliament and the deputy chairman of the Yeniden Refah Party. You've been an active voice on foreign policy, regional stability, and the rights of Muslim communities around the world. So we're really honored to have you here. Thank you. You've been a very strong advocate for human rights, and as we know, the Uyghur people are the ancestors of the Turkish people, and our shared history is an important part of our legacies. My first question to you is, knowing that the Uyghur nation has faced serious human rights violations and genocide in occupied East Turkestan, what would you say is the current role of Turkey in defending the rights of oppressed communities such as the Uyghurs?
First of all, I would like to thank to the Bavarian communities and authorities for giving permission to organize such a program in Germany. This is very important for freedom of the Uyghur Turks and the other East Turkestan Turks, and to be the voice of the voiceless from Germany. This is very important. Of course, the issue of the Uyghur siblings is very important for Turkey. For that reason, we are making great efforts in the parliament for the solution of this issue. But unfortunately, the growing economic relations between Turkey and China make this issue be dilated And Turkey, of course, has a very good geopolitical situation, and it is a bridge between the East and the West. And for this reason, it can play a more important role for solving this issue together with the Western allies, such as the European Union and the United States, Canada, and other countries. And to be a pioneer for these steps, it will be very, very important. We know the issue from A to Z, and some Chinese authorities visit me in the parliament frequently, especially the embassy staff, the ambassador, and from CCP authorities came to visit me many times. And I always tell them that if you close the doors and keep silent the voiceless people, be sure that outside the room, the voices of the other people will be very loud. And for that reason, you cannot stop this. You have to obey to the freedoms and to rights of all these Uyghur people. And of course, we know that there is a big pressure now in Uyghur region, especially in Sinjar. A month ago, some families visited me in the parliament. It was very important because we know that when we came to the Congress of the Uyghurs, they tell us the truth. And afterwards, the Chinese authorities came us and they said that the contrary things. And they said that if you want, we can take you to East Turkestan, to Sinjar and other regions, and there is no pressure on the Muslims there. But from the first hand, I heard that they are making a big pressure, and of course, the Uyghurs were majority in this region until the 50 years. Now they day by day becoming minority there. The Han Chinese are migrating to this region, and they making a big pressure on them. And the most difficult thing is that they visit the families of the Uyghur Turks every week, I think maybe one in a week, and they making researches if they use their own language, if they are crying, and if they keep their customs. But they also ask to the children of the families about these situations, if they use their own language in home. And also they are researching for religious books and other things, and they write reports. And if they see anything contrary to their views, they took these families to re-education centers, to concentration centers, and millions of Uyghur people are in concentration camps, and nothing happened to them. We have to look forward. Turkey alone cannot solve this problem, but Turkey can play an important role in order to solve this problem together with the allies. And if this taken, the first step is because they have very close commercial relations with Turkey and other Muslim world. Turkey and other members of the Muslim world are approximately 2 billion. And it is an open market. The Chinese, for Chinese authorities, these Muslim countries are very open market. For that reason, if they act together, I think that China's will take the necessary steps in order to stop this policy.
Thank you. I think you really touched on a few important points, and I wanted to maybe turn also to Mr. Sanikov. Andrei Sanikov, you are a former deputy foreign minister of Belarus and a leading voice in the fight for democracy and human rights, and you resigned as a form of political protest. You co-founded the Civil Action Charter 97, and you were awarded the Bruno Kreisky Prize in 2005. Your resilience in enduring hardships of being a political prisoner and a dissident in the face of authoritarianism has inspired many people, but also Uyghurs here. And it deeply resonates with Uyghurs fighting oppression, so we're also very glad to have you here. And I think Mr. Bekin has said that Turkey alone cannot fight this, so there needs to be some sort of solidarity with other nations. So having fought against oppression in your own country in Belarus, what role do you think international solidarity plays in the rights of oppressed peoples such as the Uyghurs or Belarusians?
Ассаламу алейкум.
Salam.
И добрый день, я знаю, что многие здесь знают русский. So, thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here to represent my country, to represent democratic forces of Belarus. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity because this is also an act of solidarity, that you have international guests that care about the destiny of Uyghurs. I would like to stress two levels of solidarity. I live now in Poland, and what we learned from Polish leaders of solidarity movement that prevailed and that dealt with the totalitarian system is that it is extremely important to have domestic solidarity. What solidarity leaders of Poland told us, they told us very strong thing. Never in their life our families lived better than when we were in prison. So people of Poland were in solidarity with those political prisoners that were thrown in prison in Poland, and they did everything to support these people. And I think that despite the hardship, because Belarus today is a very gloomy place, it's could be compared even to concentration camp like we see in China for Uyghurs. But people do find ways to support each other and to support those who are in prison. And it is extremely important that attention will be focused on these people who suffer now. International solidarity is of utmost importance because what every prisoner needs to know that he is not abandoned, political prisoner. And every authority, prison authority, every guards in prison, they are entrusted, they are ordered to tell every political prisoner that you are forgotten. Nobody cares about you. Nobody even know your name. So it is extremely important to expose all the cases. It's extremely important to have big names to show solidarity. I know that in China, there are some very famous Chinese stars, prominent persons of Uyghur origin are supporting the regime of China. That is why it is very important to show that there are names like we know Enes Frieden, Enes Kanter, who is part of our World Liberty Congress to which we belong. And he is very vocal on Chinese repressive practices. So I think the names like stars, like sportsmen, like people who are important in their countries have to be mobilized to show solidarity with oppressed people all over the world, including Uyghurs. I think it is extremely important to show that not only it is horrible what you are suffering to, but it's also a noble cause that you are fighting for. So to answer your question, solidarity is of utmost importance.
Thank you, and you're right, this is also an act of solidarity, standing here together. I want to ask you maybe, Mr. Rikin, one question around Turkey's role in leading this fight in the Islamic world or in the Muslim world, because a lot of the times, I mean, Uyghurs are majority Muslim people, and a lot of the times what we feel this frustration that the Muslim world has abandoned the Uyghurs. If you look at other, causes, where, for example, the OIC, the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, has championed the rights of Rohingyas, Palestinians, and many other repressed Muslim communities around the world, but has completely forgotten the Uyghur plight. So what is the role of Turkey in bringing this issue at in the Muslim, I guess, space?
The issue of the Uyghur Turks is not forgotten in Turkey. It is unforgettable, but as I said, the situations are different between the governments. There are some economic conditions which delayed this issue. But Turkey is a member of the D8 countries. It is together with Pakistan, Iran, Indonesia, Malaysia, Bangladesh, Egypt, and Nigeria. It is a member of, together with these countries, and this country's population is more than 1 billion. It's very important. OECD countries also is very important, and Turkey has now an organization with Turkish states, Asian states, and I think this issue will be more important, and we as parliamentarians, from time to time, we bring it to the parliament, and we hope that in nearest futures, together with the opposition parties, most of them stand with the Uyghur people. We will have some organizations in Turkey, and in order to be your voice in Turkey, and this, of course, will affect the government to bring urgent solutions to this oppression. Be sure that the East Turkestan issue and the Uyghur issue is not forgotten in Turkey. We want to live in peace. Our religion is not a terror religion, but the Chinese authorities sees the Muslims and Islam as terrorists. This is unfortunately unacceptable. I want to give you a small example from my childhood. I was born in Mardin, and Mardin was a very cosmopolitan city. There was Christians, Jews there, and Yazidis, and all our neighbors were Christians. One day we were playing football, and one day we couldn't find a place to play football, and I decided to play in the churchyard of our Christian players. I offered them to play that, and my closest friend George said me that why we will play in the churchyard? We have to play in the mosque yard. It is bigger. And after years, when I grow up, I called my friend by telephone. He was in Istanbul, and apologized to him. I said that why I was child, I offered you such a thing. He said, no, we are brothers. The world is enough for all of us. Whether we are Christian, Muslims, and other religions, we have to live together in peaceful manner. This is very important. The world is enough for all of us, but China, like countries like China, dictatorial countries, there is the book of George Orwell, The Animal Farm. He says in the Animal Farm that all animals are equal, but some animals see them more equal. The Chinas, they see them more equal than Uyghur Turks, but this will not last forever. I think in nearest future they will see the fact, and inshallah the Uyghurs will be free there, and everything will be changed, because there are samples in the world like Turkey and other Middle East countries as well. We hope the solutions will be good. We will make all of our efforts to make the government, the Turkish government, to take positive steps for this issue. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you. We see the solidarity even within the Turkish parliament. When I was there with the delegation in October, we met with you. We met also with many other Turkish parliamentarians who also showed their solidarity, even within, I think sometimes challenging contexts. So we do really count on people like you to bring this issue to light. Mr. Sannikov, as someone who has resisted authoritarianism, and you've lived through authoritarian regime, what strategies do you think are most effective to counter this, and especially when these governments like China, Russia, Belarus are controlling narratives through state-run media?
Yeah, it is really the most difficult times we are living through today. It is not just my opinion. I think you all know that there is an organization, Freedom House, that compiles the reports on the state of democracy in the world, and for the last 20 years, maybe more, the democracy is on decline. And it is horrible that dictators and authoritarians are getting more and more effective, whereas we seem to have less tools to counter them and to resist them. And frankly, it is visible that they are acting more effectively to destroy human rights in the world. They don't need much time to take decisions, because there is only one man usually to take a decision on repression. And we have to organize ourselves. That's why I think the World Liberty Congress is created. I think we have to, the best strategy is to learn the strategies that exist in the world. I can tell you from my experience what we did. For example, it's very important that you have the Youth Congress. It's extremely important. For example, we created in the 90s, we created the Zubr movement. Zubr is a bison. It's a European type of bison, which habitat is Poland, Belarus. And it was a youth movement. We took Gene Sharp book, The Nonviolent Resistance, and we created a manual of resistance for the youth in Belarus, taking the methods of Gene Sharp that advocates. I'm a strong proponent of nonviolent resistance, because I think that if we cross the line of nonviolence, then we will face this very serious repercussions afterwards, immediately. And we see the examples all over the world of this. So we created this book, the strategies of how to resist the regime using nonviolent methods. And it was very effective. Now there are several exercises in the world that are trying to figure out how to fight the authoritarianism and dictatorships in the world today, when we have even war unleashed on Ukraine by Russia. That is why I think that we have to admit that democratic world doesn't have a real strategy of how to deal with it. Why? Because of many factors, one of them being business above all. And all the principles are gone when there is a business that the countries that could support and pledge to support democracy are involved in supporting the dictators to get so. So that is why I think that it is really very dangerous moment, of a moment where the balance will tilt, the world will go. And it is clear today that countries living under dictatorships cannot cope with this alone. It was possible in times of solidarity, although with a very strong help from the West. The help, it was, we know, as I told you, I live in Poland, I know in detail how they were supported. We don't need any interference. We need the democratic world to stick to its principles and to defend the principles, because, you know, strange situation, Uyghurs are defending these principles in concentration camps, we are defending these principles in Belarus, and the democratic world is not defending them. They are trying to make deals with dictators and accommodate them, not us. We are defending a principle that allows the Western democratic world to live comfortably, protected, but they are not living to our expectation and living to their own principles. So the best strategy is unity, solidarity all over the world to fight dictatorship, to get back to the human rights, the basic human rights. Like the first basic human rights is the right for life. And that is, I think, it is absolutely uncontestable that we have to fight for this.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is a great reminder of this fight, and I think that you're right. There's a lot of double standards when it comes to protecting human rights, and then it becomes empty slogans almost sometimes in the European Parliament and in the United Nations. So I think people like us, we have to be the constant reminder of this. And I think Mr. Blanchet also put it really well in his opening speech. Thank you for showing us the way, basically, because Uyghurs, Belarusians in the streets, we're showing the way for freer, more democratic societies as well. So before we end, I just wanted to end on a more positive note. So one maybe hopeful message that you'd like to share here with the Uyghur community and our guests, to both of you. What gives, are you hopeful? One hopeful message.
We have to be hopeful because this dictatorship will not last forever. It will be, it is not endless. Nothing is endless. And dictatorship in China also will have an end. For that reason, the struggle of the Uyghur Turks is very important. And as we see from the United States of America to Canada to Germany and to Switzerland, many countries open their doors and their hearts to the Uyghur Turks. This is very, very important for you. And there is, this is a big power with you. For that reason, you have to be organized. You have to be united. This is very important. As we see in Turkey, the Uyghur Turks have many associations in Turkey. And every association has special agendas. This will not take you to the aimed goal. For that reason, you have to be concentrated on a special issue in order to reach your goal. This is very important, and we hope that if you are becoming one heart and one fist, you can solve this problem peacefully, because the world is changing. The world is not like before. And in a peaceful manner, we hope that within a short time, this issue will be the first topic of the world for the solution. We hope that we will also make our best for solution of this issue, because we know from the heart the effects of this issue on the Uyghur peoples. And we know all these issues, I have a very rich library, and I have one room books on this issue alone. This is very important, and we will make also our best effort. We are also thankful to all the authorities from Germany to United States, from Belarus to other countries, and they are shoulder by shoulder with you. And this is very important, and we hope that it will be productive, these efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think this is exactly why we're here this weekend, to be united, to find strategies, draw strategies together to reach our aim collectively. So also for the 22 organizations that are co-sponsoring this event, so thank you for you guys. Mr. Sanikov, one last message of hope.
The message of hope is you know, because when I see so many beautiful people, freedom fighters, and I see them from every oppressed country, I think that's the best. But frankly, I think that when I meet freedom fighters from the oppressed countries, I see that they're more handsome and beautiful and clever than the authorities, authorities. I don't know why it is not, we not prevail yet, but honestly, I want to say that I think we need what was the first question of Zumrita to me about solidarity. That's what we need. I think we have to strengthen our solidarity all over the world, because remember the words of Václav Havel about the power of the powerless, that we need to proliferate this solidarity of the powerless freedom fighters until they become powerful. And then if you remember the words of Dalai Lama about the giving voice to the voices, that's also our task and our mission. I would also add to this the power of those who care, because we see the international solidarity, and we have to widen and strengthen this circle of those who care about our cases, our particular cases of the people who are being oppressed. Because, you know, the world is losing when we don't have voice, when we don't have power, and we cannot communicate with the world from our position, from our nations, from Uyghur and Belarusians, bringing to the world the riches that we have inside our nations and our culture. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think your documentary really features the power of solidarity and resilience. So I want to thank both of our guests, Mr. Doğan Bekin and Mr. Anders Sanikov, for their valuable contributions. Thank you. And now we're going to go start our first panel.
Sure.
Tanaffus vaqt emasa, jumu qaytib kelinglar. It's not a break time. We're going to have the break after this panel. So please stay seated.
Sir Ian Duncan's this address, it's video, right? But it's recorded. But I I will trigger it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Just want to make sure.
Örkeşka? Nerede? Örkeşkam nerede?
Am I ready to go? Good morning. My name is Dean Baxendale, President and Publisher of Optimum Publishing, out of Toronto, Canada, or Washington, or Ottawa, or Munich, depending on the day. I'm here with an esteemed panel to talk about the most significant, I think, development in terms of our understanding of the Chinese Communist Party and the lengths to which they are willing to go to oppress, suppress, and silence voices of reason, voices of humanity, voices who wish to be free. All of the people in this room are united in a cause that is bigger than the world really understands. The cause for the Uyghurs is a cause for all of humanity. And together, we're going to talk about transnational repression, its various voices, its various, how it looks in different countries. And we have some great panelists here today, so let me quickly introduce them. And to my far left is Alexis Bruno-Duceppe. He is a member of parliament. He is a member of the Bloc Québécois. Interestingly enough, the third is mentioned by the leader of the party, Yves Francois, earlier this morning. They're a party who's actually fighting for freedom and democracy. They're a party who is defending Uyghurs, Tibetans. They're speaking above the liberals who are in power, or the conservatives. So I applaud my friend, who I've got to know very well over the last couple of years. So. And to my left, who probably needs no introduction, but I will introduce her all the same, is Roshan Abbas. As you know, she's the executive director here for the World Uyghur Congress. And she's also my lovely author. And tomorrow night we will launch the book here. So I invite all of you to be here, and we can share some more stories about this cause. And we have Amy Su, who's the vice chairman of Fireside for Hong Kong. So we have the Hong Kong represented here. We have Tenzin Zokbao, and the executive director of the Tibet Initiative for Deutschland. And we have Wei Kish, the leader of the Chinese democracy movement. And so we have all different spheres here almost represented. We're missing a couple of the 5 poisons. But there's also a 6th poison that the Chinese Communist Party also identified. But those are all the people that are sitting in this room. Those are the parliamentarians, the people who work for parliamentarians, people who work for NGOs and human rights organizations. We together are working with various groups like the Tibetans, the Uyghurs, Taiwan, the Falun Gong. These are all very, very important groups that represent peoples that are oppressed inside China. So, without further ado, let's get this panel started. And I'm going to ask my dear friend, Alexei, to start us off. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Yandin. Thank you, everybody on the panel. Thank you for having me again. I think it's my 4th time I have the chance to be with you. And I think with all those years, we became more than allies. We became friends, dear friends. So we're talking about transnational repression today. It's a crucial subject right now. But I'd like to focus my remark on what I'll call the 2 faces of transnational repression. there's the more visible one, but also what I would describe as the more insidious part of the transnational repression. Obviously, it's a growing threat in a lot of countries, and obviously it is in Canada. We talk about transnational repression from Russia, Iran, but of course the CCP and China. And you know, I'm friend with, of course, diaspora from Hong Kong, Tibetans, Uyghurs, and I can see transnational repression on a daily basis. Now, if we don't do anything as parliamentarians, who will do it? And that's the main thing we have to look at it today, that we'll be talking about in this panel. What can be done, what should be done, what has not been done, and why we are here. What is the fight we must put forward to take along those targets that we are becoming right now, that you are becoming right now, outside the borders of the regime. So thank you for having me, and I hope I'll be able to make some points with you today.
Thank you, Alexei. I'm going to move to you. Now, the Tibetan cause was the first group that the Chinese Communist Party targeted, going back to their original invasion of the Tibetan lands. His Holiness, who escaped in 1959, I believe, and to Dharamsala, you are the first group that really saw transnational repression, were a genocide that was being committed against cultural genocide, for sure. So you're here in Germany and speaking for Tibetans and for this cause, and looking forward to your remarks.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to express my thanks for being invited to this amazing event, and I want to congratulate again to all of you to set up this amazing community hall in place. What I think is an important step, especially encountering transnational repression, to build up spaces where community feels safe and secure, and I hope this place will be one like this. So thank you. Yes, I'm very honored to represent the Tibetan movement here today, and I know it's a great responsibility because transnational repression has become a reality which has haunted our communities for decades. And I remember very clearly that when I was a child, standing in front of the Chinese embassy, we were always photographed. There were always people from the embassy who were trying to assault my mother and threaten her physically and also by words. And growing up with experience like this, I internalized that this was just the normal consequences of being an activist. And it became something which is really normal to us. And I think this is a big problem, and it actually took a while and just started when I was actively working at Tibet Initiative Germany, and I was engaging more with China's influence within Germany, that I truly understood it is not normal, and all about there should not be a place in a democratic society like Germany where this can be normality, or this is like a daily base situation for peoples from Tibet, Hong Kong, East Turkestan, China. So in Germany, we have around 800 Tibetans living here, and many of them are continuing to face similar forms of intimidations. And the tactics, I'm very sure all of you have experienced them as well, are very continuously. And one of the most common tools are the repressions of the family who are left behind in Tibet. And many Tibetans are being silenced by the fear against the retaliation against their loved ones. And this tactic is very effectively, but we have also, as already said, very subtle tactics like the so-called friendly calls from the Chinese embassy, which just give you a very chilling subtext. We know who you are, and if we want, we can reach you. And I think looking back, as you already mentioned, Tibetan cause, I would quickly like to recall on the 2008 Beijing Olympics, where the spotlight was really hit on the Tibetan issue and cause, and a lot of Tibetans were brave enough to stand up and to share the stories publicly. And at the end, they were left alone with the consequences. There was no support from the police, there was no support from the civil society, there was no support from the politics in Germany. And this has left a very deep, unsecure feeling within the Tibetan community that there is no trust in any legal officers or in the media, that if help is needed, there would be help. And I think this is one of the important steps we have to encounter now, and to set up more trust that we will find a way to encounter transnational repression. Thank you.
Thank you for those. I'm involved with doing a book right now which focuses in on Tibet and His Holiness in some ways, and the suppression and co-optation of Tibetan Buddhism by the Chinese Communist Party. We'll get into that maybe a little bit later. So moving from Tibet, let's move to a big flash center that has been, was on the news for many years, especially starting in 2017, right through. The Chinese Communist Party has effectively taken over Hong Kong, and now they're trying to pursue the idea that Hong Kong is a great financial center, a vibrant international city. Come again and invest in Hong Kong and invest in China. What say you?
Good morning, first of all. Thank you very much for having me here. It's an honor and truly a privilege to be here, to have the opportunity to exchange with the esteemed guests on the stage, and also international delegates of the Uyghurish community. Is a wonderful opportunity. Thank you for having me. But to answer your question right away, the simple answer is no. Doesn't work. How can you have an international city vibrant with finance and economy, cultural exchange, etc., when the people just doesn't have freedom? It simply does not work. But coming back to the topic of transnational repression and what Tenzin just said of the Tibetan situation, for us Hong Kongers, the situation is maybe in some ways, thankfully, very different. Transnational repression, lack of freedom, repression, these are all very new to us. The very first mass protest in Hong Kong took place in 2014, the so-called umbrella movement. And then 5 years later, 2019, we had the second round of mass protests. So we're not even talking about 10 years. Roughly in 11 years of time, we Hong Kongers as a people, as a cultural identity, as a community, we went from zero, no political awareness, to right now fighting actively for our own freedom. And so in this sense, transnational repression is to us completely not normal. It's not normal, it's awful, and we're trying to fight it. However, for us Hong Kongers, the situation is very pessimistic. In 2020, the national security law was passed in Hong Kong. This is a ridiculous law because it is written in black and white. It doesn't matter what nationality you are. It doesn't matter where on earth you committed a crime. It is persecutable. And it has been already used retroactively, which means it doesn't matter where in history, when exactly in the past you did something bad, they can go for you. And so this is, like I said, completely ridiculous, but it is in a law that they now weaponize to prosecute us Hong Kongers and also others. Just last year, there was the so-called Article 23. Now another law that fortifies the idea of we can prosecute you if you hurt national security. Just 2 weeks ago, yet another law got passed in Hong Kong, and this is an amendment to this Article 23. So the laws are stacking against us. But we have the awareness that this is not normal, and we're fighting for it very actively.
Thank you. Thank you. Anuha, speak on to the big thing, the China democracy movement, or how does that work? And
Assalamu alaikum. I'm a Uyghur, by the way. I'm also a Chinese democracy activist, and then here I'm in this exceptional stage. Happy also to represent the country that I call home now, Taiwan, which is an exemplary democracy and who have achieved amazing progress in the past 30 years, becoming one of the, in the past we used to say Taiwan is the beacon of freedom and democracy in the Chinese-speaking world. It's no longer the case. We're the beacon of freedom and democracy in the whole world now. We're exemplary. We have way surpassed the so-called credo of democracies. I'm sure the French people say that's us, or the British say that is us. And then certainly the flagship of democracy, United States. These days, has their numbers. For instance, the Freedom House has given us a ranking of a pretty high in freedom and democracy. Reporters Without Borders have ranked Taiwan a higher rank than France, where Reporters Without Borders is headquartered in, higher than United States, United Kingdom, and then of course, steadily #1 in Asia. Taiwan's achievement is on democracy and freedom is something that I am taking a great pride of, calling myself a Taiwanese. There are quite a few things that I call myself. I'm a Chinese democracy activist, no matter how much I don't want to be a Chinese. That part, I think most Uyghur people understand here. The Chinese government said, no, you're wanted. We have a most wanted warrant with your name on us. You are Chinese. We're gonna arrest you. So in year 2009, I turned myself in to the Chinese authorities. Said, you want me? There's a most wanted warrant with my name on it. Here I am. So I turned myself. I flew from Taipei to Macau. I hold a Taiwanese passport. Flying to Macau is the only places that is under the People's Republic of China where we don't need a visa to go to. But when I landed and then I raised my hand and say, oh, I'm most wanted. One China, two system, arrest me, extradite me back to Beijing. They did arrest me. They took me in the prison cell and threw me on airplane and fly me back to Taipei the second day. So all of a sudden, the most wanted become most unwanted. So that was my personal story of being a Chinese, being a Taiwanese, being an Uyghur, for surely, very proud. And on the stage, I also want to, bonjour, and guten Tag. 다시다래. There are a few things. 평강인 가요. I have a very close in my heart to Hong Kong because Hong Kong people saved my life in 1989, managed to help me escape from China after they put me on the most wanted list. So I have to flee China and end up in France. That's my bonjour from. And then of course in the United States, many years learning, understanding democracy. Hello. Yes, so understanding democracy and then come to the conclusion that Taiwan is exemplary democracy, is doing very well. And then proud to report to you that Taiwan is the first Asian country which its parliament adopted the Uyghur Tribunal's verdict of genocide. We are the first Asian country that the parliament has acknowledged that verdict. I have taken a little, pride of working on that because I'm working with the Taiwan Parliamentary Human Rights Commission, and then we lobbied the parliament to pass a resolution. So, thank you. So yes, there are transnational repression for sure, but there are also transnational coalition in defending freedom and democracy. There's not enough for sure. Hardly. I mean, we know the totalitarian regimes, Russian, China, North Korea, they're working together. They're even like in the ongoing war we're talking about in Ukraine, there are North Korean soldiers fighting. So things like that.
So I'm going to get back to a couple questions a little later on for you, and think about the recall movement. I'm going to come to you with a question about the recall movement in Taiwan afterward. Rushan, a great defender, of the Uyghur people, an advocate, a compassionate individual, a mother, and how do you find so much time and to do the things that you do on behalf of all the people in this room? But anyway.
Thank you, Dean. Is it working?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and I'm very honored to speak alongside with such a distinguished panelist. And speaking at the last actually gives me great advantage because everybody said the most important things. And let me just summarize a few important part of this transnational repression. And seems like this is something new the world is being introduced to. But this is not just some new term or some description. This is actually the name, and there's numbers and the individuals and the pictures, and we actually, and everyone in this room are the victims of totalitarian regimes, or mostly China's transnational repression. Today, as we recognize, transnational repression has been evolved to the CCP's operations through digital disinformation, psychological warfare, and the reputational destruction, and the targeting each individual, especially for the Uyghurs and Hong Kongers and Tibetans. They are hostage taking our family members. Basically, when they have our loved ones on their hands and using them to silence us, they have our neck is being held. Each of us are living this with our daily lives. Very interesting to hear Tenzin speaking about the 2008 Beijing Olympics. That 2008 Beijing Olympics was a confirmation for China to be accepted as in the international community for ignoring the world order and ignoring the human rights, any kind of respect for the human rights, and doing whatever they can, yet being rewarded by Beijing Olympics. And through that, they try to target all the activists around the world. While Tenzin is speaking about what happened in Germany, it just reflected me what we have been through in San Francisco when Olympic torch went through. The San Francisco police, the American police, defended the pro-China protesters against us while we were protesting with Uyghurs and Tibetans and other Chinese Democrats. When I got repeatedly hit by flag poles, getting pushed around, and I was being elbowed on my back and head, and I reported the police, and the police said, close your mouth, stay quiet, otherwise you ended up in downtown. So basically threatening me by being arrested. But luckily today, the situation changed. United States, Canada, and many democratic countries are recognizing China's transnational repression is not only against the marginalized communities or people China thinks that they can control within their borders, but also everybody is being targeted. Not just the Uyghur Americans, Uyghur Canadians, Uyghur Germans, but the actual Canadians, Americans, and everybody. When almost 7 years ago, September 2018, when I spoke about China's mass detention and genocidal policies against the Uyghurs at the Hudson Institute, that day changed my life. I thought I was just taking a lunch break from my work. I was an international business development director, had a very successful career. As you said, I was a mother, raising 5 children. And I just went to speak on a panel like this and give 5 minutes opening remarks. Then I answered a couple of questions, which was televised on YouTube to the world. 5 days later, they took my sister as a retaliation for my speech, my freedom of speech in the United States as an American citizen. I have been living in the US since 1989. Yet, when I exercise my freedom, my sister ended up being taken hostage. She's a retired medical doctor. Almost 7 years she's in jail. When we continuously did our advocacy, which I quit my job just to show them it's not going to work, I became a full-time activist. And also my brother, Rashad Abbas, who's with us here, he also continuously speaking for the human rights and advocacy and spoke at the UN, and we continued our advocacy around the world. Then they charged her in 20 years on the so-called fabricated terrorism-related charges. So today I say, if it came to the Tibetans, to the Uyghurs, to the Taiwan and the Hong Kong in overnight, they turned the light of the democracy and made it a dark place. And today they are coming to you, not just the Uyghurs or Tibetans. They are coming to the world. They are coming to the freedom and the democracy of the future. The freedom that your parents and grandparents fought so hard to establish like 70, 60 some years ago. And now it's up to you and us what happens next. If we don't speak today, then the only voice left will be one of regret.
Thank you, Sean. And you bring up a very important point before we get into sort of talking about some of the solutions here and some of the anecdotal situations in the various countries and the various movements. And that is this. We are all bound here together. How many people in this room are sanctioned or banned by the Chinese Communist Party? Raise your hands. Honor. I have the dubious distinction, though, of not being sanctioned, but I have the most authors and contributors in the world that are sanctioned by the Chinese Communist Party or the Russian Soviet Union. And so if you're banned by China, Russia, and you want to speak out, come see me. I'll tell your story. So, but it's people here. We're here because of humanity. Together, we have a shared vision for freedom and democracy. Rushan is absolutely right. We need to work together to speak out. We cannot let the Chinese Communist Party and their soft power and sharp power diplomacy stop the voices in Parliament, who in Canada, Bundestag, even in Congress, European Union, have often been silenced with Chinese talking points. Oh, things are good in Tibet. Things are great. Look at what we're doing for the Uyghur people. We're bringing them up. Meanwhile, we're lining our pockets with money using slave and indentured labor. So, into solutions now. So I'm somewhat passionate about this subject, having published a few books on the subject. I'm going to go to my dear friend Alexei, and talk about what's happening in Canada, and let's talk about some of the solutions and how you, as a group, are fighting on behalf of freedom and democracy.
Yeah. First of all, just I want to say I'm banned from China and Russia. So
thank you.
I got
Thank
two
you.
badge. Yeah.
I'm waiting for your book.
I may try Macau to see if it works or not. First of all, the problem we have in Canada, but in a lot of places, European countries, other Western democracy, as they call it, is that the transnational repression is not taken seriously. People are taking it lightly, like it's nothing, like they trivialize it. It's a normal thing, right? And it doesn't bother them. For example, I have to change my phone because the security in the government asked me to change my phone 5 times. It's not because they want to. I do not fear for my safety, but they want through my phone have the contacts of the people I'm working, and those people are in danger when they go through my phone. So that's another example of transnational repression. The problem we have, and maybe you remember, Dean, we finally got the National Public Inquiry on Foreign Interference. We worked hard. I had to do a press conference with Tibetans, Hong Kongers, Taiwanese, Uyghurs together to have that foreign public inquiry on foreign interference. And the result of this, after all, is nothing but even worse. During the last election, about 1 month ago, in a campaign meeting, in a liberal campaign meeting, we had that person who was invited, who was the head of a police station in Canadian soil. She was directing, and she was, the RCMP had an investigation, the federal police had an investigation on that person because she was directing this police station on Canadian soil, and she was invited to a liberal campaign meeting. So that's what they have, that when I say they've taken that lightly, this is exactly what I mean. We have another candidate, Paul Chang, to name it. This guy was, again, a liberal, but he might have been a conservative too, but this guy just said in a public meeting, he asked the crowd to take his opponent, Jote, who has a price on his head from the CCP, and to take it to the Chinese embassy. Collect the bounty. So again, it was a joke, but it's not funny. Transnational repression is not funny, but in the head of the politicians in Ottawa, I can tell you that they take it lightly, they don't take it seriously, so we have to push. That's why we had the study on Jimmy Lai. We finally get a press release from the Subcommittee on Human Rights of the House of Commons. That's why we had a motion on Tibet. I pushed really hard to have a self-determination motion on Tibet. And when you get a letter to thank you from His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, you're in the good side of history. So we always have to push, but then, as my leader said earlier, you have to show us the way. And that's what we are, following. But we need you to put pressure on politicians. At the end of the day, they have to take it seriously, and we have to define what is transnational repression, to put it in the criminal code. And that's exactly what we are going to do. But I think Western democracy should really look at it, define exactly what means transnational repression, and put it in their own criminal code as a crime, and then we can prosecute sorry for my English, those persons in court and then put them in jail. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we go any further, I think and thank you for that, because you don't know the amount of work that this gentleman and his party have done to further the rights and the cause for Uyghurs and Tibetans in Canada. But before we go any further in the panel, we also have an address by Sir Ian Duncan Smith. So I think if we could cue that up on the screen and just put that up, I think it's an appropriate time in the middle of this to put that up. Is it available to go up on the screen? Good? Good. Let's see it. Roll it out.
I'm sorry not to be able to be with you at this. I'm sorry not to be able to be with you at this Uyghur National Summit, but I do want to stress to all of you there that I and many of my colleagues here in Parliament are fighting daily for your freedom and for those who have been left behind, who are being persecuted, terrorized, and obliterated simply because of the prejudices of the Chinese Communist Party and President Xi. We will not stop, I will not stop, to support you in your endeavors, particularly in trying to stop countries that are sending Uyghur refugees back to China, who are almost certainly going to be incarcerated and probably executed. This has to stop as a human rights issue. But I will carry on campaigning for the eventual freedom of the people in Xinjiang, the Uyghur, and an end to this despotic and terrible genocide that has been taking place by the Chinese government. My thoughts are with you all.
As many of you know in this room, Sir Ian Duncan Smith has been an incredible advocate for human rights writ large in Europe and certainly in the UK. So getting into the solutions, let's talk a little bit about your organization here and some of the solutions that we can put forward and some of the successes that you've enjoyed in terms of bringing your voice forward for Tibetans here in Germany.
Yeah, so currently we have in Germany the problem and the situation that there is only very limited protection mechanism for individuals who are affected by transnational repression, and most of the impacts of those who are impacted are referred to the police. The police in Germany most of the time is completely overwhelmed by the situation, and they are having a lack of expertise. And then we are facing another problem, is that the structure of policing in Germany is local state based, and this makes it really complicated to get like an overall picture how is the situation in Germany. So about 2 years ago, together with the World Uyghur Congress and Freiheit für Hong Kong, we published the first report, which is called Chinese Terror in Germany. We listed up some of the cases, and we went to the German Bundestag to speak with all the democratic parties and to tell them about our daily experience in the situation, and pass some information about transnational repression. And what we encounter was really deeply concerning, is that the topic has not received any attention to that point, that there were no official statistics and no systematic documentation of the incidents. And so far, during that point, 2 years ago, there was no academic research on addressing transnational repression in Germany. In this report, we also forwarded a concrete recommendation that we wanted that there should be a low threshold support and reporting center established with staff who has expertise, and also the cultural sensitivity where affected individual can turn to without fear of retaliation or stigmatization. And I think this is really important, because now if we have cases, many victims are being referred to the Federal Office for Protection of the Constitution, the Verfassungsschutz. And we definitely believe they are doing important work and they are taking these cases very seriously, but there is a big lack of transparency. So if you are a victim of transnational repression, you have no idea what is happening with your case. Are they following it up, and how are they following the case up? And what we see is that they are mostly focusing on really extreme cases, like threats, physical attacks. But transnational repression is so much more, as we already heard. So there are many cases which are below the threshold of prosecutable offense. So we need to get more focus on that. And last year in August, we managed to establish the Coalition Against Transnational Repression in Germany. At the moment, we are 16 civil society organizations representing 9 countries of people in Germany who are facing transnational repression. And I think this is a big step forward, because now we have a platform where we can exchange, where we can coordinate, and we can move forward as a community and as a group. And we saw the first successes already, is that now the first time ever transnational repression is included in the German Federal Coalition Agreement. And I think this is a very important milestone, which gives us a base to work on. But now, definitely, it is not enough. The German politics need to start working on that topic and to find some good solutions.
Thank you. Well, it sounds like your progress is being made, which is great. I'm going to go to Wuha next, and let's talk about Taiwan, the beacon of democracy in the Strait of Taiwan. Let's talk a little bit about the recall movement against the KMT. I was in Taipei earlier on this year, meeting with that group, and you're saying it's the last vestige. It's the first line of defense for democracy around the world. If China takes over Taiwan, what does that leave us all? Where does that leave us all?
One thing the Taiwanese people to be most proud of, well, there are quite a few things the Taiwanese are very proud of. Our food, And then like when earlier they form a milk tea coalition. I don't know what Taiwanese have milk tea that exported around the globe these days. And then Taiwanese says we are, milk tea makers. And then I told them, you form the milk tea coalition without Uyghur people and Tibetan. But anyway, so there are quite a few things that Taiwanese people are extremely proud of. Democracy, they will die for it. They will die defending democracy.
Yes.
Taiwanese people, when it comes to democracy, it's something that they take most proud of. And then not only by saying so, but by also taking part in actions that we have already had a successful, a couple of successful recall movements initiated by civil societies, and then people took part in. When we saw democracy that we built for, democracy in Taiwan was not, it's a little different from democracy here in Germany. It was designed by an American general or forced by an American general in Japan. No, we fought for our democracy in Taiwan. We earned it. So we wanted to. Then when the elected officials that were put forward to practice democracy not doing their job, or not doing their job well, the people just step in and say, it's our term. So the civil society, the people will actually take the step and say, no, we want to defend our democracy. So a lot of people these days ask me, what if China, invade Taiwan? Do you think Taiwanese people are ready to defend yourself? Oh, yes. When people ask me, hey, you are in Taiwan now, you are exiled from China, you're a Chinese dissident, and now you are in exile. We call them 50 centers, if you have heard of this term. The Chinese government reward each of the netizens 50 cents of renminbi for each post they put in, if they are in more of a pro-government speech. So we just simply call them 50 centers.
The 50-cent army.
50-cent army, yeah. So one of the 50-cent armies asked me, oh, okay, you managed to escape in 1989 to Taiwan. Now we're going to take Taiwan back in. Where are you going to escape to now? As a very offensive comment, I don't know if he can get 50 cents or probably a little bit more than 50 cents for that comment. My answer to him is that no, I'll be dead in action. I'll be I will be killed. I will be sacrificed in action, defending Taiwan. I'll be finally getting my chance to get even with PLA, my old adversary. And that remark, that statement was retweeted so many times and even reported by the media. So Taiwanese people are quite determined in defending democracy, I myself included. And then that remark I put in was retweeted so many times in Taiwan. And then a lot of people, Taiwanese people, just simply put +1
right.
when retweeting my
And that's
comment.
where it starts. It starts with a comment, something going out, being public, and one more person, and one more person. And together, around the world, if we have this energy, one more person will join our cause for freedom and democracy. So thank you for what you do in Taiwan. And let's talk again about Hong Kong. And as you've come, it's new to you. You were guaranteed a 50-year agreement with the Sino-British Declaration negotiated by the Brits with the Chinese government. Of course, the Chinese government always keeps their word. So let's talk about now how you're dealing with it and this new reality that you're now living for Hong Kongers, and a little bit and the solutions, because I know very active Hong Kong Watch groups that I work with around the world on this, very dynamic group. So.
Yeah. So first, maybe I'll just talk completely honestly. So we Hong Kongers as a community, as a people, we feel that we're very new on the stage, that we have to fight for ourselves. Suddenly, all these bad things happen. We have no idea. We have been indoctrinated for decades not to get involved in politics. We have no idea what to do, anything, and suddenly we have to ramp up. So for us, the transition has been very quick and sudden, and we found ourselves swimming in a big sea. And I'll be completely honest again, we have no concrete, definite plan how to go forward at this point. We Hong Kongers at the diaspora, we are currently at a stage where the Hong Kongers in Europe just founded a coalition last year. So the Hong Kongers in Europe say, hey, we have to get together, we have a united voice, etc. That was only last year. This year, just 2 weeks ago, the Hong Kongers in Britain, there are more than 300,000 of them in Britain, they started talking about, hey, we in Britain, we also need a coalition of Hong Kongers. So we are very, very early in our destiny or our journey of finding our way and finding a solution. That said, like you mentioned, Dean, we are very fortunate to have lots of very good examples. The Uyghur community completely included. We learn a lot from you. We learn a lot from the Tibetans. We learn a lot from other diaspora communities. And so we have now very prominent international advocacy organizations like Hong Kong Watch, Hong Kong DC, and so on. And we're finding our way. And we're also very fortunate that because the bad things that happened to Hong Kong are fairly recent, in the last 2 to 3 decades, we still have a lot of advocates for us who are still alive. For example, the very last governor of Hong Kong, Chris Patten, he's still alive in Britain. We have other patrons who are very active, who were very active in the transition from China to Britain, from Britain to China, and now they suddenly find themselves in a position that, hey, we have to speak up for Hong Kongers now because I was part of the negotiation and now all the documents are now annulled. So we are very different in the sense of comparing to the other communities here on the stage. However, we are trying our very best to do what we can. And for example, here today, that we have an opportunity to speak here to us, maybe to you, I'm just a panelist. To me, this is a huge privilege that we even get a voice at all on the international stage. That for us is a very important first step. And we know the journey is long. You have our solidarity. We will fight together.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Rushan, I'm going to put you in the tough position, sort of, closing out a little bit on this. I'll maybe have a last comment, but America, the beacon of democracy, is it still today? You work in Washington, and I'm there in Washington with you often, and we're seeing a lot of legislation come out of America going against taking China head on. A lot of people don't really understand the Trump administration, but there is a plan. It may seem haphazard, but let's talk about Washington and the positive things, that are happening. We sat on a podium in Washington 2 weeks ago, talking about a great piece of legislation that was being passed, and there's unanimity between Democrats and Republicans on China.
This is not the question you gave me, though.
I know. You have to go with the flow. No, you answer the question as you see fit, as any good politician does.
Was not the topic here, but well, luckily, the Uyghurs have very strong bipartisan support from both Republicans and the Democrats, because what we are fighting is not a politics or some sort of goal or some motives behind. This is a human issue. This is about human dignity and the basic survival rights for those millions of Uyghur people who are being occupied under the CCP and facing full-fledged active genocide. So what's going on today in Washington? I don't want to go into too many domestic politics, but as Uyghurs, we are optimistically, we are cautiously optimistic about this administration, because Secretary Pompeo and the first Trump administration was the first international country or government to recognize what's happening to Uyghurs as genocide. And then it got confirmed by Secretary Blinken, but then again with Secretary Rubio twice, once in February 27th and on March 14th again, that what PRC is doing to the Uyghurs is genocide and crimes against humanity. Secretary Rubio is sanctioned by China because of his human rights work for Uyghurs. Just to elevate the Uyghur cause, just to give our voice and give us voice and raise our cause, he hosted me for State of the Union, actually, when he was a senator. And now he has 4 hats, basically leading everywhere. So we have a great advocate in the administration, in the White House, State Department, and everywhere. So we are happy to see that. But at the end of the day, we are our own advocates, and our greatest safeguards is ourselves. It's our conduct, these kind of gatherings, and to defend our integrity, defend our future, defend our freedom, and to live respectfully as human beings, like everyone deserves. We need to keep fighting, continue our fight, continue to speak out. Several years ago, when the mass detention started to come to the picture, and when we addressed the US Congress, US government, the White House, we have been told, don't exaggerate when we said 1 to 3 million people in the camps. Nobody even could imagine China would be doing this in today's world, in this information era. But it took relentless, tireless work and the continuous advocacy from most of these people in this room. We came to the point that today, when you say Uyghur, the world community recognize, and when you say the CCP and the Xi Jinping, they are being recognized as a genocider and a dictator. So at the end of the day, again, it's us, and the US luckily started to realize that the Chinese government is not just conducting genocide against Uyghurs or attacking the Tibetans and Hong Kongers and the Taiwanese democracy, but they are also being national security threat for not just US, but all the allies around the world. So the consequences of continuously doing the appeasement policy actually will cause, the consequence will be the people who will pay the price will be the future of this world and our children and grandchildren. Every leader in the Western democracy should realize that. So they should not be just defending the Uyghurs and being the voices for Uyghurs, but they should speak out, hold China accountable to defend their own freedom, defend their own future.
Thank you, Rushan, for that. So, in closing, very quickly, I want to first of all thank all of you in this audience for being here today to listen to my esteemed panel. And I would encourage you to engage them afterward. One thing I just want to say in closing is this. Together, we are the united front for freedom and democracy. Together, we will win because oppressors and totalitarian regimes have no place in our world. And together, we will win. So thank you.
Thank you to our esteemed panelists. And now we will have a 20-minute break. Please come back on time because we have our next panel with 2 incredible UN experts. So come back in time. We have some Uyghur delicacies here and pastries for the coffee break. 20 minutluk kafe dam ilish qilamiz. Vaqtida qaytib kiringlar chunki kelaki panel ikki BDT oliy dokladchilar bilan bo'ldi. Shunga vaqtida boshlaymiz, rahmat. Uyg'urcha ingliz tushunmaydiganlar Uyg'urcha tarjima qildigan nimalar zalda bor. Shu yerdan savodkamdan olsanglar bo'ldi. Chunki bir qanchanglar qilmabsizlar, shuni nim qildim. Saat 11'dan 40'da başlayımız. Həmminlar 11'dan 40'da kirib olunglar. We will start at 11:40 sharp, so please come back on time. Coffee pause keynote ama keynote'dan çıkınlar. Keynote'dan. Ya dolqurgam dedi öyle. Ben değil karab dedim sizge biraz.
Ben sizden WhatsApp'tan bakıyorum. Kalan çiçekler gibi. It's
some sort of democracy, but not that much. And then no democracy at all in the rest. I think that's what we'll see.
Again, a very great organized event.
Thank you.
No, it's like a start.
President of the World Uyghur Congress. We would like to start the panel with a short video message by Ms. Markéta Gregorova, member of the European Parliament from the Czech Pirate Party.
Dear attendees of this year's Uyghur Summit, my name is Markéta Gregorova and I am a member of the European Parliament as well as a member of its delegations for relations with China. It is an honor to join you today, even if only through a screen, to express my unwavering solidarity with the Uyghur people. I stand with you against the genocide and horrific abuses being committed by the Chinese government. As an MEP, I have consistently advocated for stronger action to defend Uyghur rights, both in the European Parliament as well as in my home country, Czech Republic. I have called for sanctions against perpetrators of human rights violations, demanded greater protections for refugees and asylum seekers, and worked to hold the Chinese government accountable for its crimes, not only for its actions within China's borders, but also for its attempts to silence Uyghurs and human rights defenders abroad. I have also actively opposed companies complicit in these abuses. For example, I have raised concerns over Huawei's technologies being used in Xinjiang to enable mass surveillance and the operation of internment camps. As I have said before, Huawei is literally selling phones that help imprison Uyghurs in concentration camps. It is our duty as democratic politicians around the world to ensure such complicity is neither hidden nor tolerated. We must also push international organizations, including the United Nations, to live up to their responsibility. Accountability cannot be optional. It must be the foundation of our collective response. Finally, I would like to conclude with a more personal message to the Uyghur community as such. Your courage and resilience inspire the world. You are not alone. I, among many others, will continue to stand and fight alongside you until justice is served. Thank you.
Thank you. And we would like to start with the panelists here, and I would like to start with Tomoya Obokata and ask you, how does one become a UN Special Rapporteur on contemporary forms of slavery?
Sure, that's a good question. Well, first of all, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the organizers and for inviting me and for everyone here for welcoming me again. I don't know if you remember, but I was also invited a couple of years ago back in Japan, and I might have met some of you. So it's a pleasure to be able to come back here again. I am Tomoya Obokata from Japan, Special Rapporteur on Contemporary Forms of Slavery. I have been appointed by the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva to serve in my personal capacity. So I do not speak on behalf of the United Nations or any governments or civil society. So I do my own independent work. Basically you can apply, and then there's a selection process by the Committee of Ambassadors. And they'll do the shortlisting, and that list will go to the council. And the president eventually makes his or her own decision in appointing a particular mandate, including myself. So that's the basic procedure there.
And how are we to imagine what you do as a special rapporteur?
Sure. Yeah, okay. The main function is fact-finding. Special rapporteur means special investigator. So we do fact-finding a couple different ways. First, I publish an annual thematic report every year to the UN Human Rights Council. Now, a few years ago, I did a report on exploitation of minorities, and in two crucial paragraphs, I did mention the Uyghur people, forced labor among Uyghur people in the Xinjiang province, and I made that conclusion and also raised the possibility of enslavement as a crime against humanity. So those are official documents. That report was published a few months before the actual High Commissioner, the then High Commissioner Bachelet's report. So I was very proud of that one. And also do a country visits at the invitation of governments. And I sent a request to the Chinese government, but unfortunately, they haven't said yes to date.
Have they said no, or didn't they say anything?
They did not say no, but they haven't said anything. So what we normally do is we keep lobbying various governments to invite me. So that's every time in Geneva, I meet with the ambassadors and high-ranking diplomats, just having a dialogue and so on. But it's not an easy process. It's very difficult to be invited to, and not just one particular country, but all other countries, because contemporary forms of slavery is very sensitive subject for many governments and countries.
Because it hits their reputation and the image that they try to project onto the world.
Sure. I mean, labor, sexual, and criminal exploitation exist in every single country, but certain countries have the worst record than others. They don't want someone like myself going in and investigating, exposing those kind of facts in relation to exploitation. So that's the reason why they do not want to invite someone like myself.
So they haven't invited you to China yet, or haven't said yes to you asking them to come to China? But you've, as you said, you have sent out several statements on the situation of Uyghurs and other minorities or nationalities in China. And what was the reaction of the Chinese mission to Geneva?
Well, before publishing my report, we had a consultation. That was a very friendly consultation, so there's no intimidation or anything like that, because they do appreciate my independence. And I enjoy immunity, so that means I will not be prosecuted or punished in any court of law for things I say or do. And even a government like China would respect that, because if they don't, and then that will have a knock-on effect. But we also sent allegations to various governments. So a while ago, we sent 160 allegations to Chinese government and also companies operating in Xinjiang on the allegations of forced labor. Some companies have replied, like some of them are Japanese actually. They are very sensitive towards that brand image, but others don't. And mostly governments, including China, will always give you a standard answer. We do not have forced labor in our country. We respect and promote human rights of all people. I mean, so those are the kind of standard line, not just by one particular government, but many governments in the world would say something like that.
And when you send out these allegations and asking the respective government to answer to the allegations, is it always accompanied by a public statement, or is it something that you first do more in a way that is not that public, and then later on decide on whether to go public or not?
Sure. All of these allegations will become public after 2 months. So it will be posted on our website, so anyone can take a look and how many allegations that China or any other governments have. And then we will issue at that stage a press statement saying that we send communications to these governments with a view to promote transparency. And I think, and hopefully these will be used as a tool for advocacy by civil society, like people or Uyghur people and others. And then we will keep coming back to these governments and saying, listen, how are you going to respond? So it's an ongoing process. It's not just one-off, but we always keep following up with these allegations.
Right. You said that you're independent. That means you not automatically speak for the United Nations themselves. And for example, the United Nations Secretary General, if you make a statement, he could say, well, he's an independent expert and I'm not his boss. So it gives you some leverage, some freedom. You can really publish your findings and be transparent and honest. Does it have downsides as well?
No, I mean, so that's what makes us independent. I do not get paid. I do not receive salary, so I do this on a voluntary basis, and so that's what makes us independent. So I may say something that may, the Secretary General or the High Commissioner may not necessarily disagree, but they would respect our position because we're independent. But I do report to the Human Rights Council, which appointed me as a special rapporteur.
And when you report to the UN, you do so during the sessions of the Human Rights Council?
That's right. Every September, I go to Geneva and present my report. And then we have so-called interactive dialogue where member states and civil society organizations ask me questions, and I will do an answer depending on the theme of my report each year.
And then I would expect that the Chinese representatives say all these organizations' allegations are false and bogus and part of a conspiracy.
Yes. So when I presented my report on minority exploitation, and that was their response. And there's always political dynamics. It's not just about China, but there are other countries who are so-called friends of China. So they will kind of say that they always attack us saying that we breached a so-called code of conduct that we have to abide by. But on that particular occasion, I made sure that I followed every single rule by reaching out to the Chinese government. Listen, this is what I'm going to publish. Do you have any opinion? But I do not have to listen to what they say. I listen, but I do not have to necessarily accept, because I made my own findings based on my own research, consultation, including listening to victims of forced labor. So, I was very confident in what I have discovered. And what happened then, a few months later, the High Commissioner also published a report. Her findings are in line with mine. So in a way, there's that consistency too.
Right, and there are times when several rapporteurs also maybe on, I don't know, illegal detention or band together and publish a statement. That happens a lot with regards to China.
Absolutely. So we also have my colleagues working group on business and human rights, special rapporteur on torture, a special rapporteur on our working group on arbitrary detention. And so we do work closely. I think it's important for us to be able to project a collective voice. This is not just about one issue, but this is a human rights issue that affects various others. So that's the message that we always try to send. So joint communications, joint press statement, that's what we do, yes.
Can I ask, has there been anything that has surprised you during the past years? I mean, you knew a lot about the UN system before you became a special rapporteur, but you've had a lot of experiences since then.
Well, I mean, it's the nature of the international system is that certain governments are very supportive of what we do, but others aren't. So they are constantly threatening us by saying, well, we are going to get rid of your mandate, just because they don't necessarily like what we say in our report and allegations. We constantly face that challenge, but again, there's always that dynamic. So there are opponents, but they're also supporters. And so I think that's how it works. But sometimes, the most recent surprise is that the budget crisis, the so-called UN liquidity crisis, that has undermined our work because our budget are cut. So normally I can go to 2 countries per year, but this year we can only go to 1. Next year, I don't even know if you get the funding at all. So that significantly restricts our activities, and that's very unfortunate because we are independent experts in fact-finding. I think that's an essential component of our human rights machinery, I think, at the international level.
And can your mandate be extended or renewed for another term?
Yes, I mean, typically, my post was created in 2007, so it's been there for a while. So typically, it's renewed every 3 years. So I mean, unfortunately, this is my last year, so I'll be stepping down. But hopefully, my mandate will be renewed in September, so that someone else will take over from May next year. So because this is an important topic. Contemporary forms of slavery happens in every single country, even in my country, Japan. That's a fact. So it's an important mandate. So I hope that the Council will certainly keep it, but there's also ongoing discussion within the Council to streamline special procedures precisely because of the budget crisis. So that's an ongoing political discussions that they're having, and there's nothing I can do to, I'm independent, so that means I do not get into politics.
Oh, that's difficult, not getting into politics when you're at the United Nations, but
of course
you have to be quite a diplomat as well as being a scholar.
Yes, I would try to be, yes.
For the people in the audience who come from many different countries, and maybe some of them have relatives who have disappeared, and maybe it's a good chance to know for them to understand better how can they, individuals or institutions, reach you.
Absolutely, and people tend to think that we are very abstract, like international entities that you cannot reach, but we are very approachable. I'm very happy to give you my email address at the UN, and if there are any allegations of human rights violations, please do contact me or any other colleagues, like Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, Special Rapporteur on Torture, Special Rapporteur on Minority Issues, and Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women. So we are here to support your cause, and I hope that we can work together in the future, and I'm very happy to be contacted. We try to be responsive, so please keep that in mind.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Whoever thinks about, or maybe thought about, oh, maybe should I approach this person from the United Nations? Yes, please. Please feel empowered and bold to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, I would like to come to another, not representative of the United Nations, but a person who's very versed in how the United Nations work. That's Barbara Lochbihler. You were the director of Amnesty International Germany, so you were an advocate for human rights. Then you were a member of parliament for the Green Party for a long time. You also advocated for Ilham Tohti receiving the Sakharov Prize that he then received in 2019. Now you're a member of the Committee on Enforced Disappearances at the United Nations. And just like I asked Mr. Obokata, can I ask you, how does one become a member of that committee?
Well, perhaps if you're allowed just to explain what the committee is.
Yes,
okay.
please.
So if you have an international treaty on a specific human rights violations, in this case on enforced disappearance, then your government may or may not decide to ratify it. And then they have the obligation to implement it into national law. And in our committee, we are 10 experts. We monitor with the state party, how do they do this? So in a very positive spirit, we encourage them to do more, to be exact, to be consequent. And in a negative tonality, the government will say they always interfere and they criticize and everything is okay, just be nice and write a report. So the main work is to discuss and monitor the government's behavior after they have ratified. How do you become a member of such a treaty body? You cannot nominate yourself like at the High Commissioners or the Human Rights Committee. So you are elected by those states who have ratified. So China cannot hinder or support me to being elected because they have not ratified. But I cannot run by my own. I have to have my government, I have to have the same nationality as the government who has ratified, and they could put forward my name. So that's all. And then you have to be elected. And then you swear at the beginning, because you ask so detailed how to stay independent, you just have to say that you are independent and that these others, I think, have to judge that you have high moral integrity. So if you use the term political, it is certainly in a different way as you would use it as a party politician. Yeah. So what can we do now on enforced disappearance? You see, this is a relatively new convention with a modern definition what it is. So only in 2006 such a convention was accepted. And if you go even further back globally to think of the military dictatorships in Latin America, in Argentina, in Chile, there it was an instrument of destruction of the progressive opposition by killing and letting people disappear. And so the argument was in the debate, is this relevant of today? And but it was decided, yes, it is. And so this convention was adopted. Now we have 77 states who have ratified. And beside the work dealing with the state parties, we look into different developments and chapters of the convention and think where we could interpret the convention more precisely. So, and when I started here in the committee, I saw that, for example, the situation of migrants is not adequately addressed in the convention. So we finalized the first general comment on the situation of migrants, which includes refugees in the context of enforced disappearance. And here perhaps for your community, the Uyghur community, there could be an entree to look into the situation. That people of your community who stay in a country who has ratified, like this one here, Germany, and are facing the threat of being not pushed back, but deported back to China, or any other country where they may face disappearance or torture, then you can quote this treaty and tell the government that this they shouldn't do. So this, and also in the convention itself, in Article 16, it says you shouldn't send people back where they face this. Now, there are other, how can I say, trends who are less in the classical way political. Like, if we have produced a statement recently on international illegal adoptions, where, for example, I just in a nutshell say, where a mother, they take away the baby and bring it to adoption. And they will tell the mother it died, or the mother is poor, and so on. And we have several cases brought to our attention where those people have the right to know where they come from. And this has led actually that governments like Switzerland and Belgium, just doing it, correct their laws to make this more less likely. So, yes, and then we have in our committee also a procedure, it's called urgent action procedure. So it means that if a person disappears in a country who has ratified, or with a nationality who has ratified, and then you can write to our committee, describe the case, describe the circumstances, and then we can check if this is reasonable, or it is fake, or it is, we don't know. And then within 48 hours, our committee can send a letter to the government and ask them to start a search. So you have to always check what relates to you. And I assume that also Uyghur people have double citizenship, perhaps. Or not all, of course, in Germany it's difficult to look into this. This urgent action procedure, actually, we can be successful in some cases. And now I look to you, the parliament member from Turkey. I just give this as an example. Turkey has also not ratified. But the Turkish government, I say it deliberately, the government sometimes has a kind of, not official, but strategy to follow people of the Gülen movement. And here in my committee, I have been in charge of people disappearing in Cambodia. And when I looked into these cases, I found out they had double citizenship. And heads of states were visiting each other. And in such cases, you know, we can, because as states are more or less always involved in one or the other form, if the state is functioning, we can find a person, we can find where they are they with the police, in which prison, and so on. So I think that's basically what the work we can do. And maybe also I learned from you, from the World Uyghur Congress, that you are in contact with individual cases, with the working group on enforced and involuntary disappearances. We work very close together with them. They are also under the UN, but they have quite a different mandate. And this, please do continue to work with them. But then we have to see. And my final example, I don't know, the person from Thailand, will be here? Oh, no, okay, good. So, for example, last year, Thailand has ratified the convention after a long lobby process from the Thai civil society. And there are currently, I think, 6 to 8 people of Uyghur people face the threat to being exposed to China. So after they ratified, we can officially discuss with them. And I was in November in Bangkok, and they had a training for all the different ministries.